Hi everyone, this is Paul the Pipe Guy from Rochester, New York. And mm, I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about pipe collecting. And I've only been doing this for about a year and a half, and it's become an addiction, which I suppose that's a healthy addiction. I don't do drugs or any of that stuff. But I do enjoy vintage pipes. And so I guess the question is, do you collect quantity or quality? I personally, when I first started collecting, mm, by the way, this is a wonderful Kwoody, number 13. Mm. And when I first started collecting, I really didn't know anything about pipes. And it's a learning process. I mean, you can spend years and years learning about all the different pipes and so forth. Um, so my knowledge is increased to a certain level that I feel like I may have something to offer in the pipe community based on my experiences. Um, when I first started collecting, I really fell in love with a Canadian style pipe. And a Canadian style pipe basically is, let's set this over here for a moment. A Canadian style pipe is a pipe which is a straight billiard pipe. And basically, if you take this off, just to give you an idea, it has an oval shank. So instead of being perfectly round, it's oval. And I have about 10 of these. This particular one here, I picked up a while back. And actually, I don't even know if this has a name on it. I don't know. I'm going to be 56 years old. My eyesight is not what it used to be. But I do have about, I don't know, 10 or 15 of these little guys. So from size down. So that's a Canadian pipe that I bought. The grain is pretty good on that. That's a very large Canadian style pipe. That's got to be 8.5 inches long, I'm guessing. And the nice thing that I like about Canadian pipes, it's the craftsmanship that's put into these pipes. As far as quantity versus quality, what I want to share with you is that basically the pipes that I collect are made from briar, and there's many different varieties of briar. Um, and basically, briar is the top of the root system, and it's a ball under the under a shear bush, I think is the name of it. Um, so, and basically, it has marbling and different types of grain styles. You know, pipes are all graded on that. Um, so, a lot of times, um, when the briar was being produced, when the pipe smoking was at its peak, there was a huge demand for pipes. And so, what the factory would do is they would actually, if they came across a piece of briar that had a nice grain, like this one does, this one has a pretty nice grain to it. This is a Bradford. But if you can see, I don't know if you can see this or not, these little dots, you can see them better there. Yeah. Those little dots are what are referred to as factory fills. And, that was perfectly acceptable, to most people, I would imagine. And the factory fill, basically, the root system, obviously it's growing in sand or dirt, or it would get a void in it, which would be sand or dirt. And it was referred to as a sand hole. So as the pipe maker was making the pipe, if they discovered these, they would fill them with wood putty or whatever they use. So I personally like collecting Kwoodies, and the reason why I do is because back in the day, the Kwoody Pipe Factory owned their own Briar company. So owning your own Briar company and you're making Kwoody pipes, and Kwoody owns the Briar company, they're going to use the best and finest graded briar in their pipes. And then they would pass down to their sister companies. There was Yellow Bowl and BBB, I believe. They would pass down the seconds, which was still good briar. But every Kwoody pipe vintage one that I've ever purchased has had unbelievable briar. The other thing I noticed in collecting Kwoody pipes is Kwoody, if you take the pipe apart, they have what's called a stinger. And the stinger basically is their patented design, which makes this pipe unique. And basically what it does is on the end of the stinger, which this whole apparatus just screws together like so, and then you have your pipe. So the stinger, basically, when you smoke the bowl, the smoke would go down through the bowl, and it would. There's a couple different varieties of stingers. Some of them have 3 holes. Some of them have 4 holes. But what it would do is it would go in through the first hole. This is a 3-hole stinger, and so the smoke would come out these 2 holes after entering this chamber. And then you have this chamber, which basically would take the smoke down to your mouth. And it's made out of aluminum. Aluminum is a very good metal for heat reduction. So it would reduce the temperature of the smoke, giving it a cooler smoke. The drawback of that is that if you really don't properly clean your pipes, and when I say properly, I mean clean the stinger all the way off with a cloth when it's still warm, and you'll end up with a nice shiny stinger like that. But if you don't put a pipe cleaner through these little top holes and they become plugged, the smoke becomes restricted and it can't pass properly through those holes. So it has to go around that ball on the end, which gives it a heavier draw. When I say heavier draw, it means you have to puff a little harder on the pipe to get your smoke. So it's very important that you clean all of these holes out, all of these chambers. And I think a lot of guys, because I do like to collect the vintage Kwoodies, which I love them in the 20s and 30s. I mean, if you think about it, they're in the 20s. I mean, you had the Great Depression, the stock market crash in 1929. So in those years, people didn't have a lot of disposable income to spend on those pipes. So you would have thought that they would have taken better care of them. And the reason I say that is, here is a Kwoody pipe. Actually, I have 2 examples where somebody sawed the stinger off. So basically now the smoke passes straight through and straight through into the stem. They chopped it off. Well, why would someone do that? Uh, well, a couple reasons, I think. The person didn't properly clean the pipe and they got tired of getting a heavy draw, so they just lopped this off. You know, and what that does is that actually reduces the value of the pipe. Now, when buying pipes on eBay and so forth, I don't buy these kind of pipes anymore. Here's another example. Somebody lopped it right off. It's a gorgeous pipe, and they lopped it off. I mean, now you could replace that stinger. There's ways of doing that, uh, but you'd have to go to a pipe guy or whatever. He could replace that stinger for you. So, I mean, they're great smokers still, but the problem is they've been uh, changed from the original factory specs, and the draw on that's unbelievable. It's great. It's a great smoker. I would never buy another one with a cut off stinger. That's just my opinion. Um, in investing in pipes, really, it's not an investment. Um, Unless you're one of those people that goes to estate sales, you're buying something that people have no idea the value of it. I mean, to give you an idea, this pipe is a GBD, totally unsmoked, new old stock. I don't know what the date on this is, but it is a vintage pipe. Could be anywhere from the 50s to the 1980s. I don't know. But the briar's perfect on it. There's no factory fills or anything. So, quantity versus quality is not the way to go, in my opinion. Maybe when you're first starting out, if you want some cheap pipes or whatever. But, so, I do have some of these. I got 10 or 15 of these Canadians. That's the largest one I have. It's got beautiful grain on it. That's the second largest one that I have, and those both have pretty large bowls. This one here is a beautiful smoker. Mm. And these don't have stingers on them. They're not Kwoodies. All right. They just have a pop-in stem into the shank. This one here is actually made by BBB, and that one has unbelievable grain. Oh my God. And that's a great smoker. The nice thing about the Canadians is as you smoke and they go down the shank, the smoke actually cools down, so they're all nice, smooth smokers. Here's another example I have. That one is made of Algerian briar. And Algerian briar supposedly is supposed to be like the premium briar. None of my Canadians have factory fills. Here's another example of a Canadian. And they basically all have oval shanks on them, which, you get a piece of briar. I mean, 8.5 inches long with no factory fills. All right. That's impressive. That's a big piece of briar. I mean, that thing started out with a root ball that was probably huge. And to have no factory fills or flaws and beautiful grain is just exceptional to me. I do have this other one here. It's another one made from Algerian briar. And it's just a beautiful smoking pipe. Hear the draw on that? Very good draw. This is a Kwoody, And that one is a Canadian style. But here, how the draw is constricted because it has a stinger on it, which I try to keep mine extremely clean. But, you know, you still have that ball up in there. And the smoke is going through 2 or 3 different holes or 4 holes. There's some constriction. So I hope I didn't bore you too much. So this is Paul the Pipe Guy by quality, not quantity. Quality, not quantity. So happy smoking, smokers.